I'm gonna be completely honest. There's a part of me that envies people who don't care about Halo. Watching this franchise that was at one point on top of the world get mismanaged so badly to the point that it has all but faded into irrelevance over the course of the decade has been an excruciating experience. Now imagine also being a fan of Sonic, Star Fox, and Saints Row, and you start to get a sense as to why I can never feel true happiness. In that regard, I and many others saw Halo Infinite as 343's last chance to bring this series back around. And over the years, that has proven to not be the case. Releasing the campaign with impressive scope, but a story that left much to be desired, a bare-bones multiplayer with a pitiful amount of maps and modes to choose from, and completely broken and unusable custom game and theater modes. The game was a massive disappointment that left most fans disillusioned, if not completely alienated, with large swaths of the community like Forge being totally left out in the dust with the feature's absence. In the post-launch, we saw a small and infrequent drip feed of content that did little to keep both casual and hardcore fans engaged. A new map here, new microtransactions there, a handful of lackluster events, but nothing to remedy the gaping holes in the base game. It wasn't long before the wider mainstream audience had written the game off as dead and shuffled back to their Fortnites, Warzones, Apexes, and Valorants. All the biggest influencers made hit pieces boldly claiming that 343 was the worst developer in the industry, and to that I still have to say, have you looked at Blizzard lately? But either way, it was too late. The wider mainstream audience had made up their mind, video essays were made, Halo Infinite was irrelevant, and 343 sucks. Although, there's always the chance. Earlier this year, there was an event that I like to call the Great Purge, which included mass layoffs at Xbox and Bonnie Ross stepping down as the head of 343. After the initial shock wore off, I had actually started to become more optimistic about this game's future, and the future of 343 as a whole. In place of Bonnie Ross, we got Pierre Hensa, who's the man responsible for turning the Master Chief Collection from a broken mess with barely functional multiplayer into a love letter to the wider franchise as a whole, especially Halo 3. They added a ton to Halo 3. I do wish they added more content to Halo 2 Anniversary as well, but beggars can't be choosers. Infinite finally started getting more additions to Forge mode, a customs browser, Infection, slightly more functional custom games, Infection, and the game has finally achieved seasonality with the last few seasons only coming out 3 to 4 months apart from each other. Also, Infection! I like Infection. It's funny to think that I'm personally experiencing the exact opposite problem with this game now than I did at launch. Rather than being starved for new content to talk about, I feel like I'm struggling to keep up with all the new additions. Since Season 4, we had yet another event focusing around the Tenrai Fracture and the Yoroi Armor Core, which not only remedies my worry that previous Fracture cores will be vaulted with no hope of unlocking them again, but also finally did something with the fact that the core is samurai themed. This Tenrai event actually added a new temporary playlist called Tenrai Social, which basically allowed fans to feel like they were some sort of futuristic samurai or cyber ninja, with game modes involving energy swords, grappling hooks, sticky grenades, and feudal Japan-inspired Forge maps to really immerse players in this idea that you've been transported to a strange alternate universe, where Halo was created instead by Koei Tecmo rather than Bungie. And on top of all of this, I completely missed it. At this point, I was completely checked out of Halo. I was taking that time to catch up on games I hadn't gotten around to playing yet. Witcher 3, American McGee's Alice, more Witcher 3, I started watching The Walking Dead, you get the point. Halo was the furthest thing from my mind. I was tapped out. I had been burned one too many times, and even through seasonality, they just weren't adding in anything that I absolutely had to come back for. It was over. Halo was dead to me and I had to move on. I did tune back in briefly when they introduced Squad Battle, which is basically classic big team battle without all the crap that 343 added to BTB and Infinite, along with some gorgeous remakes of classic Halo maps. But even that didn't keep my interest for long because I quickly lost interest yet again. But then I started hearing rumblings of something sinister deep beneath the surface, through rock and metal and time, waiting to return. Season 5 Reckoning introduced a lot, but the main draw of this season was the theme of the Battle Pass, a hypothetical scenario where Spartans are infected by the Flood and turned into ruthless zombified killers with only one goal: infect, and consume. These armor pieces are phenomenal and perfectly represent the horror of one's body being overtaken by an all-consuming parasite. I also have to commend them for using this as a funny way to introduce an armor kit that is clearly an homage to the Photos armor, an armor design from Halo 4 and 5 that was so ridiculous it ended up doubling back and becoming iconic in its own little ugly duckling way. So it's nice to see it make a return in a way that doesn't clash with the current art style and is also extremely unsettling to look at. Only this time it's intentional. To coincide with the Flood event, a Flood-focused short story was also posted on Halo Waypoint, along with an audio version being uploaded to YouTube titled Saturn Devouring His Son, named after the painting famous for its unsettling and visceral nature. Saturn Devouring His Son tells a truly bone-chilling story about a Spartan getting infected by the Flood and the horror that follows. A perfect thing for them to have dropped on Halloween of all days. In fact, the whole Battle Pass was very Halloween-coded, with witches, ghosts, bats, pumpkins, all the classic spooky iconography, which makes sense considering the Battle Pass was only open to free users for 30 days. You heard that right. Of the 3 months this season will be active, the main Battle Pass of the season was only available for non-paying users for 1 of them. This is due to 343's new monetization model when it comes to how Battle Passes will be done going forward. For the first 30 days of a season, the first 20 tiers of the 100 tier Battle Pass is free for all players to unlock. But once that time is up, or you've unlocked all the free content, you'll have to cough up the credits to continue. There are also 2 different levels to the Battle Pass for you to pay for. You have the standard Battle Pass, which gives you access to 50 unlockable tiers for $5, and then you have the Premium Pass for $10, which gives you all the tiers for an unlimited amount of time. After time expires, the 50 tier Battle Pass becomes unavailable, and the only way to keep unlocking tiers in that pass is to buy the Premium Pass. In other words, don't waste your money on the standard, it's a scam. But on the bright side, this is probably the most progress we've seen when it comes to cross-core customization, because now all helmets are available for all cores. This means I can finally add my Reach ODST helmet to my Rakshasa core like I've been wanting to do for a while now. But, of course, because this is Microsoft, there's a catch, because they've decided to use the slow integration of cross-core customization to gouge all the prizes in the store to unprecedented levels, by charging the cosmetics as individual items on each core, which has inflated the prices of all the bundles to an absurd degree. This is an unbelievably scummy and anti-consumer tactic that rivals Activision levels of greed, and further sullies what could potentially be the best update in this game's lifespan so far. Surprisingly enough though, that's mostly it for the negatives, because when it comes to good content, this update has it in spades. Season 5 came with massive additions to Forge mode, including the ability to add and script AI into Forge maps. This means that players can forge their own Firefight maps and even whole campaign missions from scratch, something we've never been able to do before. We've been missing true Firefight in Halo since Reach, and no, the Warzone game mode doesn't count. So its return here has not only been a joy to see, it's been a dream come true. I've been wanting to be able to make my own Firefight maps ever since I first played Reach back in 2010. This is something I've wanted to see in a Halo game for as long as I've been a Halo fan. I can't overstate or even properly express the childlike glee I've experienced playing on other people's handcrafted Firefight maps. Not only that, but like I said, people have been using these tools to make fully fledged levels in Forge that feel like they were pulled straight from the campaign. There's already an endless amount of content out there with people remaking full missions from past games or even their own original missions. I've already seen people recreate the Silent Cartographer from Combat Evolved, Sierra 117 from Halo 3, and Lone Wolf from Halo Reach with meticulous detail, and I am loving every moment of it. For the first time, Halo Infinite truly feels infinite. On November 14th, 343 launched its first operation titled Combined Arms. An operation is like an event, but they're called operations now. But seriously, the main change is that while event passes were free, operations give you the option to just buy all the unlockable items outright, which is certainly one of the choices of all time if I do say so myself. Modern gaming, don't you like it? This pass focuses on new items for the Rakshasa core, which you won't hear me complaining about. I still have a love for the look of the Rakshasa core, so more free pieces for it will always be a pleasure. This event also comes with a new cross-promotion celebrating the return of Mountain Dew's Game Fuel line of drinks in the form of a new playlist, Halo 3 Refueled, a nostalgic throwback to 2007 when the Game Fuel drinks were first released, with 7 remakes and reinterpretations of classic Halo 3 maps, along with one new map inspired by Foundry, also from Halo 3. We have Isolation, High Ground, The Pit, Blackout, along with reimagined versions of maps like a Banished-themed remake of Narrows and expanded versions of Guardian and Construct with new corridors and routes to explore. Those last two in particular are really trippy. They feel familiar yet alien at the same time. They remind me of those dreams you get where you go back to your old high school but the floor plan is way bigger and more convoluted than you remember, and it all just sort of starts to feel like an MC Escher drawing. Am I the only one who has those dreams? Should I seek therapy? Probably. Then there's the all-new Foundry-inspired map, Critical Dew Point. This one is apparently based on a Forge map that was popular in MLG playlists back in the day. The whole map is designed to look like a flooded and abandoned Mountain Dew warehouse, and is actually pretty fun with a lot of vantage points and cover to run through. It makes for an intense and competitive battleground that's fun to traverse. Speaking of competitiveness, that's been a major complaint from people about this playlist. The skill-based matchmaking in this playlist is way too hardcore. You'll be getting paired into the most nail-biting and sweaty matches you've ever experienced outside of ranked. And as someone who is far from a competitive player, this was a nightmare for me. I found myself unironically going into the serious gamer mode position just to stand a chance. It just doesn't make sense to do this to a nostalgia playlist like this that could potentially attract the attention of people that may not have played Halo in a while and decided to pick up Infinite after hearing about the returning maps. Those people that are just looking for a nostalgic throwback experience are inevitably going to feel discouraged and deterred by the hyper-competitive feel of the playlist, when all they want to do is sit back, reminisce, and have a good time. It just feels tone-deaf and comes off like 343 still hasn't decided what their target audience is. Despite its shortcomings, I think I'm finally fully content with the current state of this game. Everything that I still want from this game content-wise seems to already be on its way, and in the meantime, I have the abundance of talented Forge maps to keep me occupied. CrossCore is making actual progress, they're working on fixing the servers with an estimated release around this time next year, and people are theorizing that the triumphant return of Griffball might not be that far off in the horizon. Not to mention that with the addition of Forge, the Halo fanbase has finally started to feel more like a community again. People are talking, they're sharing their Forge maps. It feels like it did when I first got into this series, which frankly is really the best case scenario. I think a full relaunch of this game with a big marketing push could be in the cards. Maybe do it for Season 7 and call it Season 117. Make it an homage to Master Chief while also implying that the season is sort of a new beginning for the game. I don't know, I'm just bouncing ideas. My only big complaint is that it really feels like the better this game gets, the greedier and more predatory the monetization becomes, which is a real shame. This is the most anti-consumer the monetization has felt since launch. Heck, this is considerably worse than it was at launch. Releasing the classic Mark V armor in the shop for a third of the campaign's price is absolutely psychotic. You can buy any of the other Halo games on Steam for half the price of a suit of armor in Halo Infinite. I hope 343 figures out their monetization and doesn't let Microsoft bully them into nickel and diming players, because what they have right now is pure gold, and I'd hate to see it get ruined by predatory practices. Once again though, monetization aside, I'm happy with Halo Infinite right now, and can see myself playing more of this game going forward. Because of that, I think this will be the last of these seasonal update videos of mine. I still have plans to make more Halo videos every now and then, but I think I'm done cataloging the continued development of Halo Infinite's multiplayer as a whole. In my mind, Halo Infinite is a complete package now. I'm satisfied, and I don't have much else left to say about it. It goes without saying that it should have been in this state at launch, and if we go through this same song and dance with the next game, I'm just not even gonna bother. But this is where we are right now, and I'm okay with that. For the first time, I'm excited for the future of this game, and I plan to play it a lot more. I guess it's true what they say. Spartans never die, they're just missing in action.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, leave a like and become a pyromaniac yourself by subscribing. Until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.